Welcome back to the She Who Dares Wins podcast, and my guest today is Jo Moseley. Hi, Jo.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
You're absolutely welcome. I'm excited to chat to you today. So, you get the first question, the same as everyone. She Who Dares Wins. Can you tell me about when you've dared and won?
So, I was thinking about this. So the most recent, so there's two, if I may. The most recent one was when I was at the skateboard park in Leeds a couple of weeks ago. I dropped in, holding on to the instructor.
That's epic.
It felt like it was off a cliff, and it's really not, but it felt amazing. And he said, he said, you weren't hanging on for dear life like you did a few weeks ago. So that was a real, really, because I get really quite scared. And the other time I would say is that relates to sort of more recently as well, is that my second book came out today. Literally, it's publication day. And I think that was daring to believe in my late 50s that I could write a book. And now I've written two, and they're both sort of bestsellers, so to speak, sort of kind of officially, and in our very niche genre. So, but more generally, so they're my personal ones, but more generally for me, daring to win is about getting to the start line. You know, actually starting something is where you win. I truly believe that. I always think I grew up thinking the destination was the winning point, but for me now it's the starting point. It's like if you start something, you've won already.
I like that. Yeah, so I can resonate with at the moment. I'm trying to train for a marathon and actually just putting the trainers on. Yeah,
literally anything you want to do, like literally walking to the skate park that first time, or even ringing them and saying, could I have a lesson? And is this really bizarre that a 58-year-old woman wants a lesson in skating? And, you know, that was really scary. And they were like, no, come. And, you know, there's this amazing woman called Hayley, and you should meet her. And she's, you know, about your age. And actually ringing them was really scary, you know, but I kind of felt like I'd won that first little fear and that first little battle. So
we'll hit on that now, and then we'll come on to your stand-up paddleboarding. So the skateboarding, was that like a long time? I really want to have a go at it. I'm scared to try it.
It was something that I'd wanted to do. Like, my brother had a skateboard, and I'd wanted to do it very much in the 70s. He's younger than me, and it was like, that's okay for him to do, but I was scared. There weren't any role models. There was nobody saying, yes, you can. And I'm quite a geek, so there was nowhere I could go for lessons, you know. And we didn't live anywhere near a skate park. And it was one of those things I always wanted to do, and I just put aside. And then I just started seeing other women doing it and thinking, you know, I'm 58. I just handed in the manuscript for my book, and I wanted to do something where I was a complete beginner again. I had no expectations of being good at it, and just start something that was so different that it could just kind of clear my mind of, you know, editing and writing books and things. And so it's a long held dream. So I would have been probably 10, 11 when I wanted to do it. And, you know, another 40 something years, I finally got around to it.
It's mad, isn't it? Actually, Zoe, who I had on the podcast, the filmmaker, she came out with something. She was like, you kind of always know what you want to do when you're, I think she said, like 12 to 15, and you just ignore it. And it's amazing, because I said to you about wanting to have a go at skateboarding.
Yeah.
The same thing. Like, I probably had a skateboard when I was that age, and then you go through life and like, oh, I can't, and the barriers. And then do you think you get to kind of like an older age and you think, just fuck it?
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. I didn't know if I could swear.
You said you could swear. Yeah, there's no boundaries.
Absolutely. You just get to the point, like, it is now or never. You know, nothing's guaranteed. You know, your health isn't guaranteed. Opportunities aren't guaranteed. It's now or never. Just do the things, because you also realize that nobody is watching. You know, nobody cares. You know, I spent most of my life thinking people are judging me, and if they were, they were, and if they weren't, they weren't, and I should just do it anyway. And you absolutely get to that point where you go, just do it. And if you hate it, then that's okay too. Like, I tried surfing a few years ago, and I loved it, but I was just so bad at it. I never left the beach or the like surf park that I went to in Wales. I never left it uninjured. You know, I was always injured. And it was just like, this is just too much hard work. I'm just going to go back to paddleboarding. But at least I gave myself the chance. I ticked it off and said, you tried it. You weren't so great, but you tried it. And my dad, who's 90, he always says, it's not the things you do that you regret, usually. It's the things you didn't do, the chances you didn't take, the opportunities that you didn't pursue, or just that you just didn't try. And so, yeah, you don't have to love it or be good at it. And surfing was like, great, but not for me. So now I'm going to, pursue my skateboarding.
I think it's epic. I really do. It's really inspiring. So back to your, I guess, bread and butter when saying stand-up paddleboarding. How did you start? You've got some fantastic accomplishments.
Yeah.
Talk us through that.
So my first lesson was the 24th of September 2016, about 2:00 on Derwent Water. And basically I had injured my knee earlier in the year. And I just was feeling, really down. I was 51, really in the thick of the menopause, the perimenopause, and just feeling, exercise was really I'd found exercise to be really beneficial for my menopausal symptoms, and just stress and anxiety and aching joints and bones and everything hurting. Exercise was great, and I couldn't exercise. I was on crutches. It wasn't, life-threatening, but it just wasn't very pleasant. And so I set myself a challenge in the September of that year to spend half an hour every day outside exercising. And this was my treat for September, like literally my treat. And I went for my very first lesson, and I stood up and I looked out across Derwent Water and thought, this is amazing. This is wonderful. I always say, and it's a bit of a cliche, I felt like a warrior, not a worrier. And I am a worrier. It's my default position. But I felt just so good. And, the pictures of me afterwards are just smiling. And I loved it. And I sort of put it on my Instagram, and actually Gilly, who you've had on, so she's part of the Wonderful Wild Women in the Lake District, and they were the first community that sort of saw me trying and supported me. So we're like, oh, Jo, that's amazing. And they're mentioned in the book. And then 3 years later, I paddleboarded coast to coast. So from Liverpool to Goole. I'd had the idea in about 2 months after I'd first had my first lesson. I thought, I'm going to paddleboard from Liverpool to Leeds, so 128 miles, 91 locks, couple of hundred bridges, whatever. And I was told I was too old. It was too old for me.
Who said that?
Some people at a party.
Damn those people.
Yeah, and middle-aged men. It was probably something too difficult for a woman of my age, too complex, and also they said it would be boring, but they didn't even know anything about it. They were like, why would you do that? So I put the dream away for 3 years, but then 2019, I thought, right, I'm gonna do it. My youngest son was going off to uni. I'm a single mum. I didn't want to be like Joey no mates, like, what you doing? And also in that time, I'd had a number of girlfriends who had died, and only one of them had reached 50.
Mm.
And I thought, life is just so short and precious. We don't know what's around the corner.
Yeah.
And if you've got, as I said, just an inkling of a dream, the tiny part of a dream there, you should give yourself the chance to get to the start line. You should give yourself the chance to try. I didn't know if I'd get to the end, but at least I needed to say to myself, well, at least you tried. And so I thought, right, Liverpool to Leeds, I'll just hop onto the air and Calder navigation, and I'll go over to Goole. So it's kind of like the first coast to coast. So I was the first woman to do that. A chap, my friend Jason, had done it in the February. He was the first person. I was the first woman, and I was 54 at the time when I did it.
Amazing. I love that time scale of like 2 months of deciding to do it, and then that 3 years, was that your own head? Okay, right.
Yeah, it was having been told I couldn't or shouldn't, or it wouldn't be a good idea, and now I would be like, yeah, whatever. Mm-hmm. But then I just didn't have the confidence. Maybe, that was just life. And also maybe, in being in perimenopause, sometimes your confidence can go. Mm-hmm. Once you're post-menopause, it's like, yeah, okay. Right. Oh, it's great.
Okay. So
your brain comes back, and you just are like, whatever, this is it. It's so powerful. It's an amazing thing. I speak to lots of postmenopausal women, and we're like, yeah, it's really cool, isn't it? It's like, yeah. It's like you get back to that stage where maybe you are a teenager, where you think, I've come through it all, and it just feels good, and all that sort of lacking in confidence. And I mean, I'm not the most confident person, but that sense of courage comes back, I think. So yeah, but it was partly just figuring out, could I do it? And you know, it was just, these girlfriends that died were just so creative and lovely, lovely women. Some I'd known forever, and some were sort of schoolgate mums. But they were all women that if you met them in the street, you'd be like, oh, I'm just really glad I met her today, you know. And you just think, well, I can't do it. They can't do it. But I can sort of do it in their memory, kind of just have the fact that I'm here and I'm 54 and I'm well and I can give it a go. And since then, a number of people have done the same route. I think we've had 3 men, 7 women, and 6 of those women have been in their 50s.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
So this journey, is it like is it like day after day?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so it took me 11 days. So I took the time off work. Took me 11 days, and so 162 miles. I thought, oh, that's great. I'll do it in 10, and then I'll have a rest. And I'd never done more than 10 miles, and yet I'd set myself a challenge of 16 a day. I mean, it was just mad, like super mad. But it was great, and it rained, and there was litter, and I was fundraising and picking up litter. And to some people, you know, you go through some industrial parts because it's the canal, so it's really industrial. You go through some beautiful parts. You go onto the river. You go through Leeds, Burnley, Bolton. You know, and it was so interesting. It was life changing, and all I was doing was paddleboarding. You know, stroke by stroke. But it changed my life.
That's incredible. And did you? What were kind of the biggest challenges of that?
Believing in myself.
Wow. So not the physical side.
No, because there was a day, I think it was about 3 or 4, where the adrenaline of the start had worn off, but I couldn't see the end in sight. And it was getting me down. There was some weed that just made it really hard to actually physically paddle. And I just remember going to bed one night going, I don't think I can do this. And then I just had to say to myself, look, you just need to ring work and say, I need a few more days. You know, I've been part of the company for a long time. They trusted me. They knew how important it was. And I just said to myself, as long as you're not injured, you just need to get to the other side, however long that takes, Jo. It's cool. And I think I had about 2 hours sleep that night, and I got up, and then something changed. It was like I'd given myself permission to take as long as it took. But not to tell myself I could quit. So it was the physical, and I made a couple of mistakes, and I felt really bad about that, and that I was a failure. And then I was like, no, you've made a mistake. You're not a mistake. I kept saying to myself, you've made a mistake. You're not a mistake, and just keep going. And so it was the mental. The physical, I never felt the physical. I didn't get blisters. I didn't get any pains. Not that I can remember at all. And I don't think it's like having a baby and then forgetting the pains. I just don't think I ever did.
Okay.
It was all mental and emotional. Yeah. And
what were some of the best parts of that journey?
There was one day when I was so far behind, it was not really even worth calculating. It's just like, this is terrible. And I set off from a place called Reedley Marina, and then I went through Fall Ridge Tunnel, which is a mile long, and I believe I was the first woman to do it, and I'm quite scared of the dark. So I went through this tunnel, and that day I paddled 24 miles, and I paddled home into Skipton, and I set off 10 in the morning, got into Skipton 10 at night, and as I left Reedley Marina, this chap said to me, when you fall in, you'll get Weil's disease and you will have to go to hospital. And it wasn't the if, it was the when. And I just remember thinking to him, you know, what right have you got to say this to me? And that day I just paddled through the most beautiful countryside because we'd come into Yorkshire. And it was just lovely. And I got to a place called Gargrave about 8:30, 9ish. And my friends were with me, and they were like, Jo, we could just take you home, because I was going to be staying at home that night. And I was like, no, I'm gonna paddle into Skipton. And it was dark, and I'd never paddled at night before, but it was the route that I had trained on. So I just knew every bridge. I knew where the geese were, and then there's this flock of, I think they're just male swans. They really didn't bother me. I knew every twist and turn. I knew the fairy lights, and there's this tiny bridge called Nifany Bridge, which you have to literally lie on your tummy and turn your head, and then you slide under.
Oh, wow.
And I did this about 9:45 at night, and I was like, wow, where did I get the bravery to do that from? And I got home and there was like the rust from the bridge on my face. But I did it. And I think that was probably, apart from the finish, that was probably one of the most special days of my life. It was like everything just came together.
You just find that this is where you're supposed to be, and what you're doing is
everything about it felt right. And then the finish was amazing. But I think that was the day that it was like, and then a couple of days after that, somebody said to me, how far have you traveled? And I said something like, I guess it would be by this point in the hundreds. And he went, yeah, whatever, in your dreams. And I was like, what, you think I'm just going to make this up?
Is this a member of the general public?
Yeah, just people just on the side of the, Mostly they were lovely.
Yeah.
Mostly they were amazing. And it was when Twitter was really nice and people go, oh my God, I've just seen you on the, mostly they were amazing. But there were just a few people that were not so kind that obviously stick out. But mainly they were amazing. And there was lots of women who were like, wow, I want to try that. And then there was some young girls because this was 2019, people didn't really know what paddleboards were in some places, and they're like, what is that? You know?
You don't, I wouldn't say that, I'd say it's quite a new sport, or it's probably been around for a long time, but you don't see many people doing it. We lived literally, the canal's just here.
Oh, wow.
On our doorstep, and we quite often go down every weekend, and it is unusual to see a stand-up paddleboard come by. But I love that you grew in confidence on the journey, and then and getting to the end. What was that like for you in terms of thinking, did that ignite what else can I do?
Yeah, absolutely. So we made a film about it called Brave Enough, A Journey Home to Joy. And I finished the film saying, I know that I'm brave, and maybe what other things are there that I could be brave enough to do? And it's not like I'm brave, it's like I'm brave enough. So I'm brave enough to take that first lesson with Denim at LS10 skateboarding, or I'm brave enough to say yes to coming on a podcast. I'm brave enough to say yes to pitching a book. And so what I also say is that I'd had, like many people, I'd had bravery forced upon me. My mum had died. I was a single mum. All these situations had forced me to be brave. But this was probably the first time in my life where I said, I'm going to try to be brave. I'm going to stick my head above the parapet. I put it all on my social media. And then it's like, well, I didn't die. Nobody was too horrible to me. What other things could I stick my head above the parapet for, and just give it a go? So, yeah. And interestingly, kind of, you only really know this looking back, but a month after I finished it, I was then officially post-menopausal. So it was like, okay.
Like you're coming of age.
Yeah, it was like, absolutely. It was a rites of passage. So, and so, it just opened up that possibility. But I always say I'm not brave, and I have to work really intentionally to be courageous. Like people say, oh, you just do everything. No, I'm like, no, you don't know how scared I get. But I just know that all I need to do is be brave enough to take that first step and then the next step, and just go along the journey that way.
I think that's really important, and I love that you've said that, because I think when other women see women do things, whether it's climb a mountain or, for example, start a podcast or do whatever, they always say, oh, that's that. I'm like, I could never do what you do.
Yeah.
And I love that sometimes you have to, I guess, like internalize it, and it's your journey.
Yeah.
And you can be brave enough. I love that, because it's not this external measurement.
Yeah.
It's you and what you can do.
Yeah.
And I think when you take out that, I don't know, people's opinions as well.
Yeah.
Then you just start moving forward, baby steps.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like Gilly said about the ice swimming. I don't do ice swimming. I cold water swim, but I don't do ice swimming. She is on a whole new level. But, she said, you just keep knowing that you can do hard things, if you're in the water. And you can do hard things, and then that translates into other areas of your life. You just remind yourself. And when I come away from the skate park, and literally, I can tell you that I have really not achieved a lot one night, but I come away feeling like I am just $1 million. It's just amazing. And you think, oh, and I write it down. So Haley told me I did this, and okay, I need to do that, but you just feel fantastic because I was just brave enough to keep showing up, time and time again, even though it humbles you. You think that's
skateboarding does for sure,
so humbles you. But I can do hard things, and it's just like Gilly said, it's like you just keep showing up, and
Where in other areas of your life do you think you've benefited from doing the stand-up paddleboarding, doing the skateboarding? Like, how does that, on an everyday basis, do you see the change?
Yeah, I mean, I think the paddleboarding then led to launching the podcast and the film, and then led to me writing the books. Mm-hmm. And I think I needed to do that long journey in order to then say, I want to write a book about paddleboarding. Because I think if I hadn't, I would have just not had the confidence to say, I can, again, stick my head above the parapet and say, I'd like to do this, because there was only one book that included paddleboarding, that included paddleboarding sort of in our body of literature as travel guides in this country.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And mine was the very first one that's dedicated to paddleboarding. The other one, which is an amazing book by Lizzie Carr, has canoeing and kayaking, and I was like dedicated to paddleboarding. I think if I hadn't done that journey, I just wouldn't have had the confidence to then say, I'd like to write a book.
Right.
And actually, the book I pitched isn't the book that they then wanted. But at that point, when they said, we don't really want the book you've pitched, but we'd like you to do a guidebook about paddleboarding. And I knew in that split second that if I said, no, I can't do this, I would have lost the opportunity.
Okay.
And so I just went, yeah, no problem. Absolutely spot on. I can do a travel guidebook. And then I went, oh my God, what the... And you just said yes to, like, literally, I remember sitting on my bed going, what the actual? You've never written a travel guide. You have no idea, because I wanted my book to be about stories of women who paddleboard. Okay. And they said, no, we don't, you're kind of 5 books down the road there.
Okay.
You've got to back up and let's sort of have a basis of books about travel guides, beautiful places to paddleboard. So I turned that book idea that they said no to into my podcast. So I kind of got my, and in my books, I write stories. So there's stories of people who paddleboard in the beautiful places. And then you get, where to park, how to get the bus there, where to have a cup of tea and cake, safety and everything. So I built it in my kind of the way I wanted to build it, really. But yeah, I had to say yes, and then literally say to my sister, who is a writer, I have no idea I'm going to do this. But it worked out. So yeah.
My previous guest, Ashley, who's just come out with her first book.
Oh, wow.
So that's out this week. She's done a fantastic book called My Fishing Journey.
Oh, yes, I saw that. That's amazing.
Yeah, she's incredible, and started later in life, just went on a fishing trip and switched to being a commercial.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. And she'd never written a book before.
Yeah.
And when I read it, it was like, okay, you've never written it, but what? And she was like, yeah, you just...
Yeah, but she won like Fisherman of the Year or something, didn't she?
Yeah. Incredibly story. Like, she is so passionate, and I think for me, it's that one fishing trip she did.
Yeah.
And it's like the stand-up paddleboarding. How do we know?
Yeah.
Unless we don't just skip it again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, just give yourself a chance. And you may hate it, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You might go, that's not for me, I'm going to try something else, but you just got to keep trying.
Yeah.
Just got to keep trying.
And so that first, and it's how the first leads to the second.
Yeah.
So your second book now.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that more the storytelling side of...
No, it's exactly the same. So the first book was Stand-Up Paddleboarding in Great Britain, which is England, Scotland and Wales. So I basically went around the country and went to, really beautiful places. And what I do is I meet someone there and I tell the story of our journey, and I talk about the history, the geography, the culture, anything related to it. And then I have all the logistical things around that. And then this book is exactly the same, but it's only focused on the Lake District.
Oh, lovely.
So there's a lot more detail, a lot more safety in it, a lot more detail, a lot more, just talking about the geology of the lakes and the history of tourism in the lakes, and how writing about the Lake District increased the tourism. So there's that at the beginning, and then there's the actual lakes, where to park, where to get the bus, where to have your cups of tea and cake. And this time I've also put where to camp and youth hostels, and also what you can do in that area if the rain is there or the wind is there. Rain, you can paddleboard in rain, but wind is not our friend.
Okay.
So it's like, well, go here or do this. So it's a whole kind of package just about the Lake District. So
wonderful.
Which is really special, because the last chapter of research for the first book was on Ullswater. So it was like I was then handing the baton over to myself and saying, right, you started paddleboarding in the lakes, on Derwent Water, you finished the research in Ullswater, and now you're passing the baton to the second book. So in the second book, I've got a picture of Amira Patel, who's the founder of the Wanderlust Women, and I've got a picture of her in the book. So it's like saying, this is kind of just going from one place to the next.
Okay.
Not everybody will know that, but the editorial team and I knew that that's what we were doing.
Okay.
So lots of story, and hopefully it will encourage others to believe that they can paddleboard.
Yeah. Oh, I'm excited to see what comes next. Which obviously you have to keep under wraps.
Napping. I'm going to have a nice long nap now.
A rest. Yeah, you deserve a rest. So where can people get your new book from?
So it's available from my publishers, which is called they've called Vertebrate Publishing, but it's adventurebooks.com, or Amazon bookshops and things like that. So all the good places you can, Waterstones, things like that. So yeah, very very widely available.
And what's next for you then? Like, you've done these amazing things. You have been incredibly brave. Other than that, do you have any goals for skateboarding?
I do, but it's very so I have this goal in my head that one day, either in Scotland or in the Lake District, I will find a piece of road, and it will be sunsetish, kind of golden hour, and I will skate down this road, and I will not fall off. I have to keep saying that as part of my manifestation. I will not fall off. And I will just skateboard down this road, and it will be, that golden hour of sunshine, and I will just feel great, and then maybe be with some friends and have some hot chocolate and cake and just think, I did that. It's a really simple one, but it's a really powerful one that I just see myself, and I might need to learn how to longboard because my board's quite little, but just go down this piece of road somewhere and I will just know it. I will know the road when I see it, and just feel really free and think this is what the little 10, 11-year-old Jo would have loved. She would have loved this moment. So that's my skateboarding goals. I'm not writing any books about skateboarding.
Never say never.
No, I'm so not good enough. We'll leave that to others, but that's my skateboarding goal.
Amazing. I'm so looking forward to see you go on that journey.
Thank you.
I want to say thank you for being so open and honest, and for doing what you've done, because
thank you.
I think there's a lot of women out there that will be truly inspired by your story.
Oh, thank you.
Myself included. And I've only ever tried stand-up paddleboarding once for about 20 minutes, and I did love it.
Yeah, we should do it.
So there are some things. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the skateboarding.
It's so lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm compelled.
LS10 is just the most amazing place.
Yeah, our local skate park. So I think that's on the cards. I want to give you a little Shoe Deswin's hoodie. I know we're coming into summer, but I feel we're just on the
cusp.
Yeah.
I'm always cold.
There we go. Perfect. So there you go. That's to say thank you
so much.
You're absolutely welcome.
Thank you.
You embody everything that it stands for. So I'm more than honoured to give that to you.
I'll wear this at the skate park.
Awesome. Thanks for being able to get.
Thank you so much.
Cool.
Thank you.